Let's go, baby. That's what I'm talking about, boys. We pulled it out. They did it. I think this was a really tough match. It was incredibly entertaining. If you have 2 hours today or you want to throw it on in the background and you haven't seen it yet, click off this video and go watch it. It was that good. But we're going to get into it. We're going to get into some of the flaws of it. It was a very messy game from both sides. I think that's good football to watch, man. It's entertaining. It's stressful for me and stressful for you guys too, since I'm sure most of us are Barcelona fans and a few upset Madrid fans. But let's go, boys. That's 3 points. That's also first place alone in the or second place alone in the Champions League behind Liverpool. Very well done from us today. I don't think at the beginning of the season, after seeing us drop all points to Monaco and, over the summer, not making a ton of great signings or depth signings, bringing in Hansi, not knowing what's going on, that is a great result to be in on December 11th. I'm very happy with this side. And we're going to get into a little bit more right now. So, quick review. First half, we came out firing. I can't believe we didn't get a goal in those first 20 or 15 minutes. Rafinha had a couple really close chances. I think they might have been offside. Either way, he did miss them. They weren't converted, and we went into the second half tied 1-0. And I don't know if we were generally the better team. I think we were very good. I think we deserved to have be a goal ahead going into the second half. But realistically, I don't think Dortmund were terrible. They definitely were not as good, and they were locking down Balde really well. I think that was the biggest flaw that I saw in that first half. Balde just defensively wasn't solid, wasn't there. Rierson was playing a really good game as he's the right back for Dortmund. And then Duranville, who is a young winger who's playing on the right wing for Dortmund, was having a game, man. He was getting past Balde like crazy. He needed a lot of support from Inigo to cover him. And thankfully, Inigo was there most of the game, was able to do that for him. But there were a couple times where he was able to put in some dangerous crosses. Thankfully, Guirassy was also not on his game today. For the most part, did not play well at all. Kubarsi and Inigo in the first half handled him pretty well. Were able to get around him or bully him enough off the ball, which is surprising considering the size difference there. Solid first half, and then in the second half, I think we came out not the best. It seems like Dortmund had made the right choice, or they were trying to become more threatening on the right side by bringing on Jan Couto for Rierson, who's a more attacking fullback, can do a lot there. The problem was Barcelona came out kind of ready for that, and we're kind of rearing to go. Rafinha scored a really good goal on a counterattack that I think it was a Pedri ball over to Danny, who flicked it on over to Rafinha. Rafinha was running into space. He had Lamine Yamal wide open on his right, decided to finish it himself, and it was a great finish. It worked out. Unfortunately, 6 minutes later, Kubarsi conceded a penalty on Guirassy, who it's an interesting pen. It's probably a pen. It is what it is. Kubarsi kind of pushes him. It seems like Kubarsi's running faster than Guirassy, and Guirassy might have been offside or he was onside, whatever. It doesn't matter. He does push him. He goes over it. He finishes the penalty very well, and Iñaki Peña has no chance. And I think Iñaki Peña had a fine game, right? We'll have another comment about him later on, but overall, after that point, it got really chaotic and really wild. I think it could have gone either way. It was that kind of game, but good teams win this game. There were a couple people in the comments, I think it was Tapin, who was saying that, Barcelona will never win with this many blunders, but realistically, they won this game. All that matters is 3 points. Whether you win 1-0 or 8-0, it doesn't matter, especially when our goal difference is already as crazy as Barcelona's is right now. They did it. That's how big teams make it. You get points when it matters. Realistically, this game wasn't that big of a deal considering our standing in the Champions League at the moment. And but it is good because we're going into two very difficult matches at Benfica. I think it's at Benfica and against Atalanta. They're difficult setups. But let's get into the ratings, though, because it creates a little interesting story about the way this match kind of went out. Iñaki Peña, I'm going to give him a 6 because I think he was pretty good coming out in the first half and making saves in the first half. Did a pretty good job with his distribution, was there when he needed to, or he didn't technically have any saves, but he did make saves when the guys were offsides, as it always goes for some unbelievable reason. And he was able to figure that out, and it worked out. Unfortunately, there was a ball played over the top where I think 2 or 3 of Dortmund's players were offside, but the guy making the run, I think it was Pascal Gross, was onside. And it was weird. Kubarsi stepped up really far because he was back, because they were in possession. Inigo gave it away in a very unfortunate area where Kubarsi was so deep. He then had to run forward a lot, which gave the opportunity for someone to make a run in behind him that timed it perfectly. Good ball from Jan Koto over to Pascal Gross, and Iñaki Peña tried to come out of his box as he's been coming out of his box all season. He gets exploited. Pascal Gross is able to pass it just over him, and they're able to finish that chance there. I think it's unfortunate on Iñaki because I think he had a decent game overall, and that is going to happen when you ask your keeper to come out of the box all the time. We've seen Neuer get caught out in situations like that. We've seen him get red cards in those situations. Peña didn't get a red card. If that's a positive we want to look at, it is what it is. I realistically don't think it was that terrible, but again, you know, he definitely could have gotten a red card in that situation, which would have made it worse because Barcelona plays terrible with 10 men. But, you know, they scored off that chance. It brought it 2-2 right at a point where we had gained so much momentum. We were playing really well and putting it together there. So I think Iñaki does deserve the 6. But realistically, I don't think it was that bad of a performance to me. And I'm going to go over to Balde, who I think put it together a little bit more in the second half. I don't think it was a good game again. I just don't think he's had a great season. Casado was over on the right side or more central, and then Pedri was pressing around that midfield area, and it was working. He was winning the ball a lot, but Balde was, because of that, kind of left alone against Orenville, and you'd think against a young player who doesn't really play that much, he'd be okay. He wasn't. I'm going to give him a 6 because he was able to make it a little bit more solid in the second half. And I think Inigo is similar. I think today maybe a 6.5. I just don't think it was an outstanding performance from him or Kubarsi. They both played some really good passes at points, but made some mistakes as well. Kubarsi obviously conceded the penalty. I think it is a penalty. I think it is a bad decision from Kubarsi. It's soft, but it's probably a pen. So I'll give him a 6 there too for the little good he did in the beginning, but it's not the best performance. Koundé, I think at the beginning of the match had a really good game. He played a really good ball into the box in the first half, or a couple of them, and was okay going forward. Offered Lamine some support when he hasn't really been, especially, you know, some really good passes in there too. Defensively, I think he was fine. There were some points that got me scared where Gittins was finally able to get into the play in the second half, but I think Koundé did a good job keeping him out of the play in a game where, again, it could have been difficult. Casado and Pedri were brilliant, both of them. Pedri had 2 passes, 2 assists. He passed to Danny, and then he passed to Lamine when they both got their assists. I thought he was spectacular at winning the ball back as well to create dangerous counterattacks. Well done from him. I'm going to give him a 7.5. No, I'm going to give him an 8, and I'm going to give Casado an 8 as well. I think they were both really, really good. Casado was sometimes like a third center back. He was that deep, but I think he was very important against this team, winning it back against Guirassy as well, who is, you know, twice his size, it looks like sometimes. I think they were really good. And then Denny, I think he gets an 8 as well. I think he had a really good game. He was having that, like, he had that flick on special touch that he always has, but he looked really good today. He ended up getting that assist to Rafinha for his goal. And he's just creatively a monster, man. I'm so glad we have him. And I'm so excited for Danny. Lamine, I think he actually didn't affect the play a ton in the first half. Again, I don't really think it's on him. He didn't take people on a ton. He was a little bit slower today, but in the second half, that connection with Ferran Torres, like the exact same way he did with Ferran in the game against Real Betis, was phenomenal. This kid is special, even when he's not off it. He took a bunch of shots in the first half, but like the final ball or his finishing boots weren't on today. Until that moment, until when it really mattered, he figured it out, he put it together, and, you know, he did well there. And I think a lot of this is highlighting the fact that we created a lot of chances, but we conceded a lot too. And that's just the way this team plays. And if they are going to play that way, they are going to have to finish better than they did today. Obviously, they won, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's something to highlight that they still have to put their finishing boots on, but they can still pull out a win in difficult games against good teams like they did today. Lewandowski was fine. I think he was linking up okay in the beginning, putting on pretty good pressure. He was on the left wing a couple times. It looked okay. I don't think it's a terrible game for him. I'm just going to give him a 6.5. I'll give him a 7 because I think he was okay. I don't think he was glaringly terrible. And Lamine, I'll give an 8. I don't know if I graded him. Rafa, I'll give him an 8 as well. I don't think it was his best game, but I think he turned it around. That finish was phenomenal. It was a gutsy finish. Like, it's to decide to shoot in that situation when Lamine is wide open. It's a choice. It worked out though, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? Lamine might care. I don't. Good goal. Great finish. Well done from Rafinha. It's upsetting that we got that momentum taken away from us right there, but hey, we figured it out. I think an 8 for him is very well deserved. And then Hansi decided to do something he did in the Real Betis game and basically take off his best player, taking out Dani Olmo, Rafinha, and Lewandowski for Fermin Lopez, Frankie de Jong, and Ferran Torres, respectively. Those are bold moves, especially for a guy that I saw who was criticized a lot for taking off his best players. I think I was listening to the Gab and Jules podcast, and that's exactly what they were saying, criticizing Hansi Flick for taking off his best players. If Barcelona lost today, I think that's exactly what would have happened, but they didn't. And the guy he brought on scored a brace and won us this game. Ferran Torres played really well, easily deserved my man of the match. I honestly didn't even think he played perfectly. He misplaced some passes, but pressed really well. Clearly had a lot of energy in the tank. Scored 2 very solid goals. Finished them well. And when we needed them the absolute most, I think Frankie de Jong was meh. I think Frankie de Jong wasn't on his game today. He still looks off of it. I know everyone's tensions and feelings with him are really getting to the edge of, what is reasonable, but I want to see a little bit more from him. He's not going anywhere in the winter, I don't think. So we're going to have him, let him figure it out. Hopefully he can. I think for me, one thing is that he was able to press more than Frankie. Frankie does look weird in that number 10 spot, just at least pressing wise. It's just not what I'm used to seeing. But overall, it really didn't matter. I think Fermin was able to give a little bit more intensity, help them break away a couple times. Pedri was there as well doing the same thing. And so I'll give Fermin a 7 for that. Eric Garcia came on in like the 90-something minute. I think it was the 92nd. Didn't do much, but I think he made one tackle that was good. I'll give him a 6.5 for that because he didn't have a ton of time. Pau Victor looked good too. I want to see him play more now that Ferran Torres is clearly above him in the pecking order. It's going to be tough getting him minutes, but I think he looked good. And I'm glad Hansi took off Lamine because Lamine wasn't pressing a ton because he had played 90 minutes and he's been tired all season or the last couple of games. So overall, solid match from the boys. I think Pau deserves a 6.5 for doing his normal job pretty much. Very difficult match. I think Dortmund created a lot of chances. Guirassy was off his game, thankfully, and it could have gone a different way, but it didn't. And that's what you could have said about like half of Madrid games last season or the season before in the Champions League. So, I'll take a dub. I know we all will too. So subscribe for more dubs, and I'll see you guys tomorrow actually on the main channel. I'm uploading a video at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So be there or be square. Peace.